Now, judging by the time, I'm going to have to speak pretty quickly, so this might be the world's fastest talk about a supersonic car. It's going to sound odd, but I'm not actually going to talk a huge amount about cars, because actually Bloodhound its number one goal is not to break the land speed record. The number one goal is to create a generation of kids that are excited about science, technology, engineering, and maths. And that is, of the three aims of the project, the number one goal is to create something that inspires children. The number two goal is to provide them with as much information as we can. So we are open source. So you can go on our website, you can look, you can download, we're about to update all the model files, but you can download the design of the car. And when we put this online 2 years ago, the largest number of downloads were China and Taiwan. So we're hoping there were going to be a load of those coming out, because we want competition. Land speed record is fantastic. You go to a school of kids and you go, what does a fast car look like? And they go, I don't know, Formula One, racing cars, stuff like that. And you go, well, actually, that 115 years ago was the world's fastest car, and it was a hybrid. That's an electric car that held the land speed record. Unfortunately, it was beaten by the cycling record. So things have gone forward an awful lot in the last 115 years. But land speed records are fantastic because it's ever changing. It's always using new technology. It's always pushing the boundaries. And because if we were doing a Formula One project, and we do a lot of work with Formula One teams, their rule book is the size of a telephone directory. And they're very, very secretive about what they do, because the whole rules of the game is how can you manipulate those to make your thing a bit better than the other people. Land speed record, you make the best of what you've got. So we are very open because we are the only people that have the kit that we have. And there are 2 or 3 other teams in the world that are also trying to break this record. We're unique in that this is founded from Thrust SSC. So the core members of our team, so Andy Green, the driver, Ron Ayres, aerodynamicist, Richard Noble, the guy that's kind of the maverick that pulls this whole thing together, came out of Thrust SSC, 1997, the first car to break the land speed record on land, break the sound barrier on land. And if you get a chance to go and see that car in Coventry, it's a beast. It's 10 tons, and it was pushing the boundaries. Talking to Ron before, he was going, before they did this, they had no idea what was going to happen. If you've seen things like the Right Stuff, when they broke the sound barrier in the air, they thought, does the plane fall to bits? They were hoping that this car would stay on the ground. And all that is going forward to where we are between, so the start of the car, Thrust SSC to Bloodhound SSC, is 11 years in the making. And 11 years sounds like a very short period of time, but that's the same time as from, say, a Lancaster bomber in World War II to a Vulcan bomber. And the technology changed, the technology step between Thrust SSC and Bloodhound SSC is the same from a piston engine aircraft to a jet engine aircraft. And we can share all that story. This was a very beautiful picture that's been used by a lot of the media. They love this picture because it's all bright colors, very, very nice. That was pretty much when the project ended. So it was the end of 2009. So this is a computational fluid dynamics plot. People go, do you test the car? And it's fully computationally analyzed. So we don't take models into wind tunnels. We don't do testing because actually there's no point, because we are so close to the ground and we're going so fast that to analyze that, you need the background data, which we don't have. So this car, red's high pressure, blue's low pressure, that car generated 11 tons of lift. Now, for a car that weighs 7.5 tons, for Andy Green, although he's a fighter pilot in his day job, suddenly creating 11 tons of lift doing 1,000 miles an hour, when you remember that the minimum ground clearance of the car is 130 millimeters. So you're talking about 5 inches off the ground, doing over 1,000 miles an hour. We solved that by a technique called the design of experiments. Now people go, what do we give? So we're an educational project, but we're not just aimed at children. We educate industry, we educate people about emergent technologies. So we found a technique we suggested called design of experiments, which is basically a way of answering a problem you don't know what the question is. So we had 11 tons of lift. We had no idea how to do that. So we worked with some guys at MATLAB and some universities and came up with a way, and it's like someone giving you F13 design supersonic car on your keyboard. It's like they'd given this fantastic tool, and analytically it gives you some rules and you follow them, and it gives you an answer. And literally there is an equation that says how to design a shape for a car that generates no lift between stationary and 1.4 times the speed of sound. And until we had that resolved, we didn't have a project. Because Andy didn't want to be the fastest plane or the fastest plough. He wanted to be the fastest car. We also use techniques, so the car you see was originally designed by about 3 people. This car is 14 meters long, weighs about 7.5 tons, has 3 engines in it. We don't have the sort of resources that a normal company would do. So if I worked for BAE Systems, Audi, Ford, there'd be crack design teams working on these problems, solving them. So we use computational tools to give us the right answer, to get us close, and we finalize it. So what you see here is a thing called topological optimization. So it's basically, we tell the computer, we want some metal here, but we don't know what the shape is. And it eats away where it doesn't need any metal. We actually call that the dead goat's head, because basically that's the front suspension of the car, and it's what holds the whole front end of the car together. And you can't make that, but you can do some drawings, and you can make that. So that's a computer-derived shape that we then finalized the design on it, had it machined, very, very quick turnaround, and a stunning, stunning piece of work that's been done. We're now in the stage where the car's being put together. It's like this massive Airfix kit of trying to glue all these different bits and pieces together. So we have, people go, it's a huge car, why is it so big? We have a jet engine, we have a rocket, and we have basically a race car engine. And it's handmade. So this is currently in Bristol. That was a photo about a month ago. It's now moved on a huge amount. I don't know if those of you that follow the project at all, I'd advise you look at the website. We put up so much stuff every week, every day. We are very, very open about all the stuff that we do. We still have problems. So we have air brakes to slow the car down. So Andy Green deploys his air brakes at 850 miles an hour. So that's 1.1 times the speed of sound. These are doors about that big, made of carbon fiber, that were opening into a sandy air at the fastest speed anybody's ever opened anything like this before. And one thing to bear in mind when you think about this car, it's like 1,000 miles an hour. How hard is that? We will break the low altitude airspeed record as well as the land speed record. So no aircraft has ever flown this quickly at this altitude. So although Concorde can fly, used to fly Mach 2 at 50, 60,000 feet, at the altitude we're at, which is about 2,500 feet in South Africa, this will be the fastest horizontal manned thing ever. Computational power, that was using a computer called Hector. So Hector is the academic supercomputer available within the UK. Most of our CFD was done using a 150-node supercomputer. To model this in real time, we used a 35,000-node supercomputer. We did 2 seconds of data. And why that is so interesting is that we are opening those doors about a meter ahead of Andy Green's rear suspension. Now, if you can imagine sticking your hand out of your car window as you drive home at the speed limit, you imagine doing that at 1,000 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, 500 miles an hour. You get these massive eddies swirling around the back of your hand. If those hit the rear suspension, Andy's rear suspension falls off. So we've had to spend an awful lot of work working out the shape that we can do, which is basically put lots of holes in it, to break all that up, so to break the eddies up. So every time we have a problem, we're the first people to have to try to think about how we do these things. We also push technology. So this is what opens the air brake. So these actuators open doors at 850 miles an hour. If one door opens and not the other one, he turns left really quickly. If the other one opens, he turns right really quickly. Falling off is not good. They are his primary way of stopping this car. For the first year of running, what you see there is what you get. For the second year of running, we're using additive manufacture. So we're looking at techniques where we can push for the second year of running, where we reduce the weight of the car. So again, we use topological optimization, but we also use a technique that puts a lattice, and we use additive manufacture to grow a component that looks the same as the other ones, but inside has a lattice structure that's molded to the stress that you need for that car. So when you saw that dead goat's head, the first thing, we chew away all the metal. You end up with something that looks very organic and aesthetic and lovely, but people don't trust him because it doesn't look strong enough. This technique, you end up with a thing that looks exactly the same on the outside, but inside is full of a lattice, and that lattice is strong and dense where it needs to be, and like fluff when it doesn't need to be. And those are sort of techniques that we are embodying to try and demonstrate these technologies, and we'll be some of the first people to use these going forward and demonstrate them as fully structural components on the car. Things like the first thing that will break the 1,000 miles an hour of the nose of the car, again, additive manufacture. Andy's wheel, additive manufacture. Some of it's functional and some of it's really good. Andy, if you've ever seen him, is a very large man, very large hands. Steering wheels don't tend to come in his size. So we've actually basically used a crowd technique with universities around the world to design Andy a wheel. We've done that as a competition winner. We then went, scanned Andy's hands, and that produced a wheel that was then grown in titanium. We're actually trying to do something quite incredible. People go, why are you doing 1,000 miles an hour? And actually, the media, the children, that is the reason. You could break the record. The current record is 763 miles an hour. You could do 780, 790, you would achieve a land speed record. But to get people really excited, to get the coverage, to get kids really fired up, 1,000's a great number, but it's also difficult. There's no point setting a target to inspire children when you go, okay, we'll just send them out with a slightly bigger engine, it will work. There are genuine challenges here that we don't know the answers to. So we go from 0 to 1,000 and to stationary again in just under 2 minutes. So again, talking to kids, people go, what are the top gear numbers? Our 0 to 60 is rubbish. Our 0 to 100 is pretty pants. So we do 0 to 100 miles an hour in about 15 seconds. A Veyron will do that in 7.9. So the kids get all turned off by that. You then go, well, then we do 100 to 1,000 in 25 seconds. They get a bit more excited about that. You then go, we've got fire engines that go faster than Lewis Hamilton down the back straight of Silverstone. They get really excited about that. You then go, your blink reflex. So as you blink, it's 1/5 of a second. If you sat in a football stadium, as you blinked, the car would come in from one side of the stadium and go out the other side while your eyes were closed. And you wouldn't hear it coming because it's going supersonic, but you'd certainly hear it going. When we did our rocket test, end of 2012, we made the largest man-made noise on planet Earth. The only things that would have been louder on Earth were a volcano or Ariane taking off. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. However, you sat to a class full of kids, and they just go, wow, that's cool. And you go, you know, you got 60 feet of flame out the back. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It doesn't use, it's not nearly as bad as it looks. We get that using 3 engines. So we have a rocket. So we have the largest hybrid rocket that's been tested in Europe. And actually, this was the one that we used 2 years ago. We now moved on from this. We're now working with a company called Namo. When we used to joke that we were part jet fighter, part rocket, part Formula One car, we've now ticked the final box. We're not just a rocket, we're now part of a spaceship. So the rocket we are using for the 2nd years of running is a thing on a project called North Star. We're working with a company that's changing how satellites are going to be launched. So currently, you get your satellite, and you pay X million of it, and you give it to Ariane, and they fire it up into orbit with a massive thing. So we were working with Namo, and they came to us and said, well, you've done this rocket, you've done this stuff. That's fantastic. Satellites are now going to be that big. We're now looking at things that are very, very small. No one's going to pay for those to go into orbit. We need a very quick, very cheap, very economic, very environmentally friendly way of launching a rocket. So our rocket uses high-test peroxide, which is H2O2, degrades to oxygen and water, and a rubber. Burns 96% combustion. That will launch satellites that big. Their aim is a 10-kilo payload capability. So working with them, and they're saying, well, so you're changing this rocket halfway through the run. How on earth do you do that? The car is stationary for about 45, 50 minutes, during which time we've got to refuel a jet engine. We've got to change a rocket system, check the wheels, kick the tires, send it back down its way. They're going, well, it takes them 3 days to refuel a rocket. If they can turn that around so they can launch 3 rockets a day, that changes the game of satellites. So people go, what do we give? What happens? What's Bloodhound giving? It's giving education, but it's also allowing emerging technologies to be seen to a wider audience. We have a Typhoon jet engine, so we have an EJ200. So we have the current leading engine within the Rolls-Royce inventory. So that's what we use for our starter motor. That will push the car along to 600 miles an hour. We then have a rocket that kicks in behind that with 20 tons of thrust. Andy Green, if he pulled up, he was in a plane, we got about 55 seconds of fuel. That fuel will take him to 25,500 feet, and he'll break the sound barrier at 17,000 feet going straight up. And I know that because I did a talk just like this at a school, and one of the kids said, well, what happens if he just goes up? I said, well, I don't know. So they went to their science teacher and they did some F equals MA and S equals ET, half a T squared, little Excel program, and over 10 minutes, we worked out the height he gets up to, and then also the speed he does when he hits the ground when he comes down again, because they're children, they're 13-year-olds, and that's what they like. We've had a huge amount of problems to solve as we've gone forward. We now have a car that we're very happy with is safe, and it's now time to put everything together. We also do low tech. That's how we work out how we can access the car. So that is literally a desktop, some cardboard, and some drain pipe. And we put that under the jet engine behind it, so 4.3 million quid's worth of jet engine, and some B&Q to work out, can you service the jet in the car? It's handmade. We've got a fantastic group of guys that do this. We've also got a great artist on the project that documents it for us. There's a caricature of all the guys that built the car in the bottom right that's now within the car for good that they've put in there. We're going to the desert. So next year, we're hack skiing Pan South Africa. Next year, we're running to about 800 miles an hour, with an up to 1,000 miles an hour in 2016. And actually, the story isn't about how successful we are, it's whether we can inspire children. This is some highlights of what we've done over the last 18 months.
Kids on the corner again. Lippy kids on the corner begin saddling like crows. Though I never perfected the simian stroke, the cigarettes and it was everything then. Do they know those days are golden? Build a rocket, boys. Build a rocket, boys. One long tune. I came down from the trees and curbstone cool. You were a freshly painted angel, walking on walls, stealing booze and down long hungry kisses. Nobody knew me at home anymore. Build a rocket, boys. Build a rocket, boys. Build a rocket, boys. Lippy kids on the corner again. Lippy kids on the corner begin saddling like crows. And I never affected Palestinian stroke.
is fast. Okay, sure. Yes, we got it. Everything is going to be working.
And actually, people ask, are we going to be successful if Andy Green breaks 1,000 miles an hour? And actually, that isn't our measure of success. The measure of success is if we do have a load of kids that think science is a great career to go for. And it doesn't matter, we don't need a nation of supersonic car designers, but we do need people that have the ability to ask the right questions of the politicians, of the scientists, of the economists. Whoever's going to solve these problems going forward, it's going to be the children that now we need, when they get to age 12, 13, 14, not to think maths and science is rubbish, and that actually it could be really exciting and challenging. Thank you very much.